Hello everyone, today we will be discussing GS paper 3 of UPSC. The paper was quite balanced. Why am I saying it was balanced? Because the questions were straightforward also, and more importantly they were very balanced in the respect that there were theoretical aspects also, and then there were some current affairs linkage also. So all in all, the paper demanded a lot of analytical thinking. It required rational analysis of each and every question. So today I will be doing the analysis with you all so that we know what are the areas and the wide range of topics that were covered from each and every section. So they have actually covered each and every sections quite precisely. So let's start. The first question that I have in your screen is: faster economic growth requires increased share of the manufacturing sector in GDP, particularly of MSME. So they are talking about the particular section of MSME, and then they are saying that comment on the present policies of the government in this regard. So how are we going to approach this question? First you need to know about MSME. Now this is a very hot topic and has been there for long, since the government has been in power, because they have been continuously focusing on micro, small and medium enterprises. So you should know about MSMEs. Now the question says that you have to comment on the present policies, and then they have talked about that apart from the policies that you have to comment on, you have to also talk about what? The increased share of the manufacturing sector in GDP. So what you can do is that first you can start your introduction with this, that why do we require this engagement of manufacturing sector in GDP, why do we have to focus on this thing? Now moving on to the body portion, how you are going to approach this. They are saying that you have to comment on the policies of the government. So first you should know that what has government done in order to support the MSME. So even if you you are just going through the newspapers, so you must be knowing what that government has brought many schemes. For example, you must be knowing about the Yojna. Then you must be knowing about the Startup India scheme. Okay. So these are the schemes. There are many more also, so you have to write that also. Apart from this schemes, what has government done based on the structural parameters? By structural parameters I mean, for example, a lot of constructions have been done. Construction in respect to what? For example, they have tried to strengthen the networks. And what are those networks? For example, the connectivity part. So we can talk about the connectivity aspect. Other than that, you can also talk about how the access to finance has also became or how the government has made the policies in a manner where there is ease of finance. And this ease of finance is coming from where? Ease of doing business. So one policy of government is this also, what? Ease of doing business. So ease of doing business based on which government is trying to promote MSMEs and especially the manufacturing sector, which would contribute immensely towards GDP. Now Apart from all the production aspect, that means you have got the finance, you have got the strong networks, you have got the policies, the schemes that are going to strengthen your base. Now what would happen once you have done the manufacturing of the product? So for that your exports should be strong. So this should also be kept in mind, how the exports should be strengthened. So promotion of exports, one aspect would be this. Now you can also talk about what kind of technology adoption has been taken place in order to make it or to materialize it. So all this is there, and then another thing that can be added on is your adoption of technology. Fine. So I talked about the schemes, I talked about the policies, I talked about the ease of doing business, I talked about the connectivity portion, then I talked about export promotion, I talked about technology adoption. More than that, we have got this national education policy also. So you can talk about research and development aspect as well. So these research and development aspects will bring in what? Innovation in the field of MSMEs. So innovation, you can target on innovation aspect, and that would be promotion through research and development. Fine. Then environmental and social regulations have also been eased down, so that can also be kept in mind. Now that depends upon how you are going to frame your answers. So these are certain key points. I think I would have gone with these. You can add on based on your understandings. Now let's go on to the second question. The second question says, what is the status of digitalization in the Indian economy? Now if you see the question is very specifically talking about digitalization in the Indian economy, and the second part of the question says that examine the problems that is faced in this regard. That means you have to talk about the challenges and suggest improvements. So you need to give certain improvement factors. That means you can also talk about your strategies, how you are going to deal with it. So to approach this, we can go with having this brief introduction about digitalization. What is digitalization? Now what is the status of digitalization in the Indian economy? So if we go with the status of digitalization in the Indian economy, this is something like really layman knowledge can also help you here. How? Because we all are having this UPI payments, right? So UPI payment is increasing now. In fact, every street vendor is also having these UPI apps and getting registered over there. So UPI status is increasing. Then government is increasingly focusing on e-governance. So you can talk about e-governance. Now here why I am focusing on e-governance, because if you see from past so many years, what we have done is we are trying to link the Aadhaar data with your healthcare. Now one such example for this practice is your vaccination. During COVID-19, when you need to go for vaccination, So what was happening is that you were vaccinated and we were having all this practice through linking your Aadhaar with the healthcare sector and through e-governance. Fine. Next thing, all those who are shopping freak, and what better could be, that means your e-commerce platforms. So you have your Amazon, you have Flipkarts, you have Myntra, etc. Everything through this e-commerce. Now what else? Startups, you know, when lockdown period was there, so there were many startups that were you know, very deeply related to only the digital section. For example, the whole education sector was going through this digitalization. So you can talk about the edtech companies. Fine. So these are this is what I would go for, the status of digitalization in the Indian economy. Now if I go with the second part, that is what are the problems that are being faced. So in the problem aspect, we always have this huge rural urban divide, right? So what we can do, or how we can go ahead, is that we can talk about the rural urban divide. We can also talk about what there is a huge divide with respect to you know, digital education with respect to gender. So there are a lot of female section which like who are negligent, or who are like totally neglected for towards this digital education. You can talk about that also. Then currently, you know, this year I think there were many articles that were based on cyber concerns. So your data is safe or not. So cyber issue becomes one of the factors. Infrastructure is again issue. Why? Because when I talked about rural urban divide, so you require infrastructure for what? Digital literacy. In the remotest corner of the country, you will find that there are chunk of population who don't know how to operate such devices, for example your laptops, your tablets, your mobile phones, etc. So we need to know about this. These are certain problems that you know, country is facing. Apart from that, the question says that you have to talk about the suggestions also. That means now you have to suggest certain aspects where or how we are going to, you know, meet these problems. So first thing that I said, digital literacy was the issue. So one thing that we can say that we need to talk about digital literacy. Then Parliament may data protection bill should be taken seriously. Apart from that, you can also talk about the various legislations regarding what? Regarding again these cyber security and your datas. So cyber security, datas. You can also talk about what? To promote innovation. Innovation with respect to what? Innovation with respect to data centers. For example, where your you know, digital data could be protected, because we all know that robotics is entering. We all know that we are heading towards artificial intelligence, and it's just there in the doorsteps. So how are you you know, going to meet those challenges? So we can say that innovatively we can have data hubs or data centers. Okay, so and if you really want to add on, so you can say that these data hubs and centers can also be made, or could be, you know, the infrastructure development could be made based on your PPP model, that is your public private partnership. Fine. So this was for question number 2. The third question is, how does e-technology help farmers in production and marketing of agricultural produce? Explain it. Now they are saying that firstly they are talking about what? E-technology. Then they are saying that how will this e-technology help the farmers in production and marketing of agricultural produce. That means the produce has happened. Now what you need to do is the produce, how are you going to use the technology with respect to production and with respect to marketing. So what or how will the e-technology help you? Now see, production aspect mein how are you going to approach it, or how, you know, e-technology is going to help you out? See, firstly, now we have a very different topography all over the country. That means we are having this hilly terrain also, then we are having the plateau regions also, we are having the coastal regions also. So the weather keeps on, or the weather is different with respect to place. So there is a change in weather that you see. So for that you require what? Continuous monitoring. So in order to have a continuous monitoring of the weather, what you require is this e-technology. So pehla to you will get to know the weather. Second thing, not every crop is suitable for every place. If I get more precise, I'll say not every crop is favorable for each and every condition. So that depends upon place to place, which crop or which seed would probably grow. So for that you require what? There should be a precision farming. So precision farming, that means you should know what kind of weather is suitable for which crop. So based on that you can actually sow those seeds. So you should know the amount or the quantity of the quantity of water that is required, the kind of pesticides are required, or if I'll go you know, more broader, then I would say the kind of fertilizers that is required. Okay. So this would probably help you in doing the farming which is suitable based on the temperature of the area. Then crop monitoring will also help you. So e-technology could be used for crop monitoring. Why? Because often now and then we have seen what there is a lot of diseases that affect the crops. So crop monitoring in order to rescue your crops from diseases. Etc. Fine. Then I have in precision farming I have talked about the crop selection aspect. So if you want you can add it there only, or if you want you can make it a separate point of crop selection with respect to geographical conditions. So in that e-technology can help you. So these are certain factors with respect to your production aspect. Now we shall head towards the marketing aspect, because they talked about marketing also. Now we need to strategize our the networks in a manner where the farmers could sell their produce in whichever part of the country they want. So for that you require what? E-marketplaces. So we already have Yojna, etc. We need to strengthen it more. Apart from that, we can or we should work on the price transparency, because malpractices have been witnessed with respect to the transparency of the prices. Now logistics and transportation also acts as a very important source for the selling of the agriculture produce and under marketing. So logistics and transporting network should be checked. Then digital, just now we have talked about digitalization. So if you want you can talk about strengthening more of digital payments. So quick digital payment. So that would with digital payment, that would also enhance the saving habits of the people. So because once the cash in your hand, it might get spent very easily. So digital payments would help you in having your in increasing your saving habits rather than with respect to women farmers more. Fine. So this was with respect to the e-technology. That would help farmers in production and marketing of agriculture produce. Let's move on to the next question. The next question says, state the objectives and measures of land reforms in India. Discuss how land ceiling policy on land holding can be considered as an effective reform under economic criteria. Now, land reform has been mentioned there separately in the syllabus, so it becomes important for you. So what you can do is you can start with a brief introduction about land reform. Now, it's a very straightforward question and totally static. So they are talking about the objectives. So objectives we all know that it was basically to provide land to the landless farmers. So either you can write this or you can talk about redistribution of land. So whatever whichever way you are comfortable with, you can go ahead with it. So redistribution of land to landless farmers. You can also you can talk about the consolidation of land holdings. consolidation of land holdings. You can also talk about since the land records were very outdated, so with land reforms we did what? Modernization of land records. Fine. One very important aspect was that there will be what? Abolition of intermediaries. That means the one who were who were exploiting the tenant farmers were abolished. So this practice actually was good with respect to what? That was the one who exploited the tenant farmers or the practice of exploitation of tenant farmers was checked. So these are certain I have just discussed some of them. You can also talk about increasing the agriculture productivity. Probably this is one of the very important reason for bringing land reforms, because this agriculture sector of India was not performing well, so we wanted to increase the agriculture productivity. So you can talk about that also. Now the second thing, what they say, measures of land reforms in India. Now here you can talk about what? Land tenancy reforms, you can talk about the land redistribution, you can talk about the records of the rights, you can also talk about the land ceilings, right? So you can bring the land tenancy, you can talk about the land ceiling, you can talk about the consolidation of land holding. There are certain measures of land reforms in India. This is how land ceiling policy on land holding can be considered as an effective reform under economic criteria. So now whatever the objectives were there, that means there was redistribution of land, increasing the agricultural productivity. So we can talk about it and we can say that what ultimately how effective it was. So we can talk about that the use of the land was efficient, we can say that the productivity increased, we can also say redistribution of land happened, we can talk about exploitation got less, we can also say that since agriculture acts as a very important part of rural sector, so we can also say that rural development gradually happened. With respect to since we have been covering digitalization also, so we can say that with respect to access to finance, with respect to the digital payment, etc., there was more investment that happened in the agriculture sector. Okay, so this is how I will be approaching the fourth question. Now let's move on to the fifth question, I guess, yeah, fifth one. The question says, introduce the concept of artificial intelligence and how does AI is helping in clinical diagnosis. Do you perceive any threat to privacy of the individual in the use of AI in healthcare? Now, if you see what they have asked is, they are talking about AI. So they said that what introduce the concept of AI. So you can start it by giving a brief introduction about AI. You can also talk about anything that is very relevant from today's time, or any report that would suggest about AI's involvement in the medical field. So anything you want, that is your choice. The second part, it says that how does AI help in clinical diagnosis. Now how are we going to write about how AI helps in clinical diagnosis. So if you people have been going to these medical health centers, so we all have seen those X-ray machines, CT scan, etc. So these X-rays, CT scans, then you have this full body analysis, that is MRI. MRI is also there. So all this is what? All this is AI. Why? Because they are there's a learned machine which is being used to diagnose your body. So you can say what? They are nothing but what? A machine learning or a learned machine models. And these models are doing what? They are diagnosing your body. And once they are diagnosing your body, what are they doing? They actually helping you in identifying they help you in identifying diseases. That means how? See, X-rays help you in knowing what? Whether any part of your body, say for example you have got any of your bone fractured, so how will you get to know about it? So their X-ray is going to help you. Then anything that is happening in your brain part, CT scan is going to help you out there. Anything which both of them are not able to identify, MRI is going to very precisely check the muscles of your body. Then okay, all of them are going to help you in identifying diseases. Now these machines or the artificial intelligence in clinical diagnosis is very important also. Why? Because they not only help you in identifying diseases but also helps you in knowing the risk assessment. Fine. So they will help you in knowing the risk assessment. Then apart from that, they will also help you in knowing what? The kind of disease you are having. That means the disease recognition. Fine. Now once you have, or once these machines have precisely located the part of the body where the disease is, what kind of disease is, and in depth they have known that how this disease could be checked. So they will help you in knowing what? The best quality of drugs that would help you in checking or would help you in recovering. So that is very important. So once you are going for medical examination, you will require treatment. So treatment begins once this is recognized. So this is recognized from AI, and that would help the medical practitioner to provide you the respective drugs. So this is important. They will help you in also now knowing the drugs that is required for your body. If you go other way around, that means they would also help, or AI would also help you in discovering the drug. So drug discovery also becomes one of the important part. Fine. Now this was how would AI help in clinical diagnosis. The next part says, do you perceive any threat to privacy of the individual in the use of AI in healthcare? So the question says that do you perceive that there is any threat to what? Any threat to privacy of the individual in the use of AI in the healthcare? Now we have been talking about this, what the breach of data privacy. That means data is very important, and we have these threat to cyber security. So the very important thing that comes here is, first is your data security. That means how secure your data is. Then often our data gets shared, or it it is just it runs from one place to other. So for that we require what? Informed consent. So we can say so first you need to know what we need to keep a check on the data security. Then we should have the informed consent of the person if we are going to share the data. That means the digital data, because once you know the digital data of the person, you can get the medical history of the person, but that medical history should be kept in privacy. Otherwise it is it is breach of privacy. So that shouldn't be there. So for that matter, informed consent should be there. There is one very important thing, that is, once the data is being used, now the AI should be programmed in a manner where data de-identification could be done. That means right to forget should be there. So that would also help. So one thing we could be this. Now we all know that AI is what? It is working based on certain algorithms and programs, right? So can we entirely get dependent upon AI? Why? Because they are also running through programs and algorithms. So there are chances when you can encounter what? Algorithm biasness. Okay, so algorithm biasness. Now then you can talk about regulatory compliance. You can also talk about you can say that how secondary use of data could be checked, because this is what I said, data moves on from one place to other without the consent of the person. So secondary use of data should be taken check of, especially in the sectors of healthcare and clinical care. Fine. You can add on more if you want. I think this would be sufficient to answer this question, because ultimately you require to answer it in 150 words. Okay. Now let's move on. Let's move on to the sixth question. Discuss several ways in which microorganisms can help in meeting the current fuel shortage. The question is very straightforward, and this has been there in current affairs also. Most importantly, they are talking about what, how we can meet the fuel shortage, because the fuel prices are rising also. So one aspect is this. Now for that matter, you should know a little bit about microorganisms. Then how are we going to approach this question? Now introduction part, I leave it to you all, how you want to introduce, that depends upon person to person. Now I'll only discuss about the body part. So the body part, they are talking about that you have to discuss about several ways. So discuss several ways in which microorganisms can help in meeting current fuel shortage. I don't know, but whether you people have heard about it or not, but we have heard about this methanol production, we have heard about ethanol production. We have also heard about biodiesel. So in all of them, what is one thing that is common? The one thing that is common is that we are using microorganisms for what? For fuel generation. So if I go with biodiesel, this one. So biodiesel mein what I have heard is that there is a use of microalgae. Now what is the use of microalgae? So this microalgae can be cultivated in your ponds, pond area, like using the sunlight and the carbon dioxide section. So how will this help you? This will help you in generation of biodiesel, which will act as a sustainable source of biodiesel production. Apart from that, when I talked about ethanol production, here yeast is being used. Now whenever yeast is being used, yeast is doing what? Now yeast is used for fermentation. Now with the help of the fermentation, what you can do is, with the help of fermentation you can produce ethanol. So we can produce ethanol. Now ethanol will help you to cut down the fuel shortage. Uske baad I talked about what methanol production. Now since there are many more ways, for example biodiesel ho gaya, ethanol ho gaya, we can go for hydrogen production also. Germany has introduced a hydrogen running train. Yeah, so hydrogen running train is being introduced in Germany. I think it happened 2-3 years back. So hydrogen generation could also help in cutting down the fuel shortage. Apart from that, you can also talk about microbial fuel cells. Microbial fuel cells. So I have talked about 5 of them. 1, 2, 3. One was methanol. 4, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 of them. You can talk about alcohol to jet fuels, that is also there. All of them are ways as in what, to meet the fuel shortage, ठीक है, by using microorganisms. So this is the portion of science. Yes. So even if you write this much, it would be sufficient, because yeah, again 150 words, so this will suffice. Okay. Let's move on to the next. Dam failures. Now this is your 7th question. Fine. Dam failures are always catastrophic, especially on the downstream side when it's flowing down, resulting in a colossal loss of life and property. Analyze the various causes of dam failure. Give 2 examples of large dam failures. This seems to be a big question, but it is not, because they are very straightforwardly they have asked you what are the causes of dam failure, and they have mentioned it in the introduction part that dam failures are catastrophic, especially on the downstream side. So what are the reasons of the dam failure? So this is your disaster management portion. Right, so if you know about any of the current section, then you can talk about it, that in this place we have encountered dam failure. Now they are talking about what are the causes of dam failure. So if I go with the very basic thing, so before any dam is constructed, the design of the dam is framed. So I would say what, that firstly there would be flaws in what, in the design of the dam. So in this you can elaborate about the flaws in the design. For example, the foundation that need to be kept, while construction of the dam, which was designed, was not appropriate. So you can talk about the flaws in the foundation part here. Fine. Apart from this, you can now they have said that the dam is, or dam failure, especially on the downstream side. So you can talk about the slope mismanagement also. That means the downstream, so it's going down. So slope mismanagement. Now since the question is asking this, you can talk about it. Now design flaws discussed. What else? Now when you are going to implement it, you are going to face what? Construction issues. What are the construction issues? The issues that are pertaining to what? The issues pertaining to, for example, the material that is being used, for example, the engineers that who are hired, the masons who are there, then the laborers who have been there, or what kind of mixture they are being using, what kind of I would say the material that is being used, whether this is being replaced or not. So everything would be there. That means you can talk about the material section. Fine. Now if you see in the present day scenario also, once the thing is constructed, what you require is a regular maintenance. That means that should be kept in mind. So you can't compromise on the maintenance section. So you can also talk about very lackadaisical approach in the maintenance section. That means time to time maintenance, time to time refiguring and rechecking of whether the dam is in the good condition or not. So one thing we can talk about the maintenance section. Then we can also check that the dam which is being constructed in the geographical location, what is the scenario of the disaster there. That means the disaster prone sections or the disaster prone areas should be kept in mind. Okay? As I talked about maintenance, you can also talk about what once the dam starts aging, you need to check the infrastructure. Then climate change, etc. It is something which is not in our hand, but regular monitoring of climate is also required, so that you could know whether the dam in the respective area could how much it could restrain. So that's important. Now they say that you need to give 2 examples of large dam failures. It could be any one. For example, if you want to write, you can go for there is Teton Dam. Now this dam is Teton Dam failed in US. Then you can also talk about what Yojna Dam. This dam failure happened in Italy. Now that is all upon you, which one you want to refer. Fine. So this was your 7th question. Now let's move on to the 8th one. The 8th one, it says, what is oil pollution? What are its impact on the marine ecosystem? In what way is oil pollution particularly harmful for a country like India? Now, what is oil pollution? So, what is oil pollution now? Any leakage of crude oil, petroleum for that matter, oil into the regions of these oceans and all the. So, what is happening is they are there is this layer of oil you would so there will be a layer of oil like this which will be floating over the oceanic region or ocean region. So what is going to happen now? This is going to affect what? The marine environment. How is this going to affect the marine environment? Because if a oil, that means oil leakage is happening, what is going to happen? Now this oil would be containing what? A lot of hydrocarbons. So the whole process of respiration, etc. gets affected. Fine. So this is how you can define oil pollution. Now what are its impact on marine ecosystem? So now the marine ecosystem is going to face what? Toxicity. So you can talk about the direct toxicity that the marine creatures are going to face. Then as I told you in the figure that this will be this whole layer of oil will be there. So what is going to happen if this process of respiration or the biological process that is there, normal biological process is not happening. So there will be a activity of what? Smothering, or just a minute, yeah. smothering. So that will affect what? The breathing process of the marine ecosystem, and for that matter your entire coastal environment will be affected. Fine. Other than that, this requires a lot of, through common sense also we can say what? There will be a habitat destruction. So habitat destruction, then and then I told you about the smothering. So what is going to happen? Your coastal ecosystem is going to get affected. Apart from that, if you people have done your science section from the NCRTs, you would have heard about the term bioaccumulation. So we are going to face the issue of bioaccumulation as well. Okay, so bioaccumulation, toxicity, smothering, habitat destruction. Other than that, you can also say what is going to affect is, if all this is going to be there, there will be what? A huge biodiversity loss. So a huge biodiversity loss is also will also be encountered. Fine. In what way oil pollution particularly harmful for a country like India? So harmful, what else? Your entire this climatic pattern will be affected, your biodiversity will be affected. Now if you see the regions of Andaman and Nicobar, and you see the Lakshadweep Islands, etc., these are some very hot spot of tourism sector. So the entire tourism sector can also be affected. Apart from that, shipping and port activities are also taking place. So these shipping and port activities will also get affected. Fine. So this is, I think, this would be sufficient for to attempt this question of oil pollution. This was your 8th question. Now we shall move on towards the next question, that is the 9th question. The 9th question says that winning of hearts and minds in terrorism affected area is an essential step in restoring the trust of the population. Okay. Discuss the measures that are adopted by the government in this respect as part of the conflict resolution in Jammu and Kashmir. What they have said is that it's very important to win the hearts and minds of the people in the terrorism affected areas, so as to restore the trust of the population over there. Now discuss the measures. So the question or what they demand from you is the measures that should be adopted by the government in this respect as part of the conflict resolution in Jammu and Kashmir. So what we can do here is, in the body part, we can talk about what? We can talk about providing them with lot of employment opportunities. So if employment opportunities and skill development is there, so probably they could they could work anywhere. So this would not lead them to feel like an alien. So one thing we can keep in mind is what economic development. And economic development will happen how? Investment in infrastructure and job creation. So invest in infrastructure, a lot of job creation. This will help in economic development of the region. Now, if you want the area to prosper, education is the next big tool. So education of the youth should be focused over there, and it's not only about literacy, it's also about quality education. So quality education, you can also talk about what a lot of youth engagement in the policy making. So once the policy that are being made, keeping in mind the views of the youth, that would also help. So quality education and youth engagement. Fine. So education, economic development. Now since they are talking about winning the hearts and minds of the people, so this is there. Apart from this, we can also talk about what? Community engagement and dialogues. Now here you can write about the various government initiatives to make these people come forward and keep their views. So you can talk about all of them. Once there is community engagement and dialogues, what else could be done? Since these areas require, or these areas the trust of the people is not with the government, that means we need to restore the trust of the population. So what we can do is we can also talk about what? Humanitarian assistance, sorry. So humanitarian assistance हो गया. Then since the valley we are talking about is of Jammu and Kashmir, so what we need to do is we need to bring out a sense of normalcy there. So because there is a lot of hue and cry over in the region, so a normalcy could be brought. Fine. Now leaving all this, you can also talk about media engagement. You can also talk about information, access to information into the region. That means through media, etc. So all that can be written over here. Okay. So this was your question number 9. Okay. Let's move on to question number 10. The use of UAVs, that is unmanned aerial vehicles, by our adversaries across the border to ferry arms, ammunitions, drugs, etc. is a serious threat to internal security. Comment on the measures being taken to tackle this threat. Another question is saying that there is use of UAVs by our adversaries across the borders. Okay, for what? For a across the borders to ferry arms and ammunitions, drugs, etc., which is definitely a threat to internal security. Now, what are the measures that could be taken? Now, measures may firstly, though, it is very common. Now, this is internal security question. So, if you people are having your notes, so you can just write about you need to know, or you need to have a good surveillance system. Once you are having a good surveillance system, then you can use what? Anti-drone technology. So, surveillance system is there, anti-drone technology is there. What else you can go for is border security. So, for border security you need to have what? Effective regulations. Apart from that, a good UAV control systems. Now, how is this possible? This is only possible if you are going to have what? A good intelligence sharing system. So, for all this you require a good intelligence sharing system. Fine. Then of course we can talk about the counter-terrorism strategies. Then you can talk about also what? International cooperation, because that's very important. Since we have China as a neighbor there, so for that you require a good international cooperation also. So, there if you win the game, then 20% game or even 40% game is won. So, international cooperation is important. That would help you in checking the UAVs. Then of course we can talk about the technology firms that could be used. We can also talk about the legal frameworks, etc. So, all this will help you in tackling the threat. So, this is your 10th question. Fine. Now, let's move on to the 11th one. Now, the question says what? That most of the unemployment in India is structural in nature. Examine the methodology adopted to compute unemployment in the country and suggest improvements. So, most of the unemployment is structural in India, and they are saying that you need to examine what the methodology adopted to compute the unemployment in the country. So, firstly we need to know about the methodology that has been actually adopted. So, agar wo nahi pata hoga, so we will not able to answer the question. So, first you need to know about the methodology, and what is the methodology. For example, you know about the National Sample Survey, NSS. Then we have labor force participation, if you know about it. So, labor force participation. Then in order to check the employment status, we also need to know about the unemployment rate. So we have many more. So these are the certain methodology that have been adopted to compute the unemployment in the country. So you need to examine these strategies. For example, when I talk about the labor force participation rate, what is happening is in this they are taking the percentage of people based on the working age population. So working age population who are either employed or they are either actively seeking employment. So they are checking only the working age population. So in that case, what is happening is that this helps you to identify what chunk of population is employed. So they have said you to examine. So labor force participation rate is going to do this. Now unemployment rate mein what is going to happen? Now number of unemployed individuals will be divided by what? Now that will be divided by total labor force. So in order to get the unemployment rate, so the unemployed youth divided by total labor force. So you will get what is the rate of unemployment, or what percentage of unemployed youth are there. So based like this is how you are going to do the analysis. Now there is educational attainment parameter also. You can talk about that also, but this is your okay, this is your 11th question. So this goes on for 250 words, so be a bit elaborative about them. Now in the next part they are saying that, just a minute. Okay, now in the next part they are talking about that you need to suggest certain improvement also. So what you can improve, or what I would go with my suggestions, I would probably say that we need to increase, or we could do what we could increase the surveys. That not in terms of quantity, but in terms of the quality. That means the frequencies. With at the intervals we are having the service. So frequency of service, that means we can have it in a very short interval of time. So frequency of service. So frequency of survey, then most often or often now and then what we doubt the data we have got. So data improvement should be there. So improve data. Other than that, they are saying adopted to compute unemployment in the country and suggest improvement. So definitely we need to check the unemployment rate also of the country. So for that we are promoting MSMEs, we are promoting skill development programs also. So there we are working on. Then the national education policy we have got, we have introduced coding system over there. So definitely technology portion may also we are improving. So we can say what focus on the technological aspects or technological education can be there. That means improvement in the field of research and development. That would probably help more. Now there are scenarios where we also see what seasonal unemployment, so that also need to be referred, that also need to be checked on. So we can talk about what checking seasonal unemployment. This you shall study in your economic portion. Then you can also talk about PPP model, that means public private collaboration in order to enhance the skills of the youth. Then okay, since the contractual labor force or the contractual market is booming, what we can do is that we can have a check on the definition aspect as well, like whom we are referring to, unemployed or the people who are referred as employed. So I think we need to give a check on to that also, to check on the definition part as well. Okay, so this is your 11th question. Now I would move towards the 12th. The 12th part says that distinguish between care economy and monetized economy, and how can care economy be brought into monetized economy through women empowerment. So the question is talking about firstly the care economy, the question is talking about the monetized economy, the question is talking about how care economy could be brought into monetized economy. That means the care economy could be monetized, because usually that goes neglected, all the care portion goes neglected. This was very much into the current affairs, and it is even today, we are having this portion there through women empowerment. So they are saying that firstly you need to know about the care economy. So care economy is dealing with all the kind of unpaid labor. What is that unpaid labor? That is contributed in the form of care, concern, etc. So all that care, concern part that we talk about goes unpaid. So that is care economy. Here you can talk about the domestic work also. So care economy. And monetized economy is the economy where what is happening, there is a market of or market for exchange goods. Fine. So unpaid labor, market for exchange goods. So this is like a general way in which I have defined. You can go more scientific manner. So in that way you will define the care economy and the monetized economy. Now how can care economy be brought into monetized economy? So what you can do is that there could be what recognition and valuation of this labor. So we can say that there could be recognition valuation of labor. So once you recognize and evaluate that labor, that means the social and the policy makers are going to frame policies where resources are allocated to this care economy or care section or the domestic work. That means resource allocation should be there. Now when resource allocation is there, what is going to happen is your care economy is going to monetize. Then this is informal labor or informal work. So if you are going to formalize it, again that is going to work on. So formalizing is going to work on. Now we can also provide a caregiving infrastructure in the various MNCs, etc. So you can talk about providing a caregiving infrastructure, because people are a lot of stressed out. They're a lot stressed out. So that could be done. So caregiving infrastructures in most of the centers, that means working centers, etc. What else? You can also talk about bringing social protection programs. Now, how will this social protection programs help out? So, social protection is what? When you are providing a kind of social security. So, that was happening in the formal employment case, that means all those pension benefits, etc. So, if that kind of social protection is provided to this part, that means the informal sector which we are trying to formalize will definitely work out. So, fine. And again, one thing is very important, what? Equal pay for equal work. This will also do wonders. Fine. So we can talk about, and like access to credit and institutional credits, etc. all is going to become a part of this. So you can add on as much as you want. This is how you will go for question number 12. So fine. Now let's move on to question number 13. Now explain the changes in cropping pattern in India in context of changes in consumption pattern. That means they are targeting what, how is the consumption pattern in India, and based on that the cropping pattern in the India should be checked, or the changes could be brought in. So based on the consumption pattern and the marketing conditions also. So both your consumption patterns and marketing conditions, based on which the cropping pattern in India should be changed. Now if I go dividing it sectorally, that means with respect to the consumption pattern. So first you need to see what is the shift, where that means what is the shift of the population. That means those high valued crops should be prioritized. If people are shifting towards a certain pattern or in a certain way, or in a certain towards a certain crop, so that high valued crops should be prioritized. Now what else? If you see with urbanization and industrialization, we are more shifting towards the processed food. So this is what I am talking about, the consumption pattern. So processed food, this should be kept in mind, because the trend is going to increase definitely. People are getting more conscious about their health also, so protein rich diets. Now this is all about consumption, protein rich diets. Now if इसके अलावा you can go about price fluctuation कैसा हो रहा है, opportunities, what is the opportunity in the market. So based on that cropping patterns can also be being changed. So this was about your consumption pattern. Now let's towards the marketing condition. That means what is the marketing condition? That means now you will see what is the export opportunity. That means you are going to focus on the cropping pattern based on the export opportunities. What is the export market? Fine. Then you are going to check on the price fluctuations. How is the price in the market? Then you can go for crop insurance schemes. That means these insurance people have these crop insurance schemes, so you go with the crop insurance scheme. So these are certain consumption patterns and marketing conditions. Then you can finally go with I have told you about consumption pattern, I have told you about marketing conditions. You can add on based on the soil health card, you can talk about the environmental condition, but you can also talk about the regions. For example, which region is favoring which kind of crops. So all that could be add on. Technological advancement can also be quoted as you want. Fine. There is no hard and fast rule that you have to write only this thing, but it should be relevant. What are the direct, 1 minute, okay, what are the direct and indirect subsidies provided to farm sector in India? Discuss the issues raised by WTO in relation to agriculture subsidies. So, what are the direct subsidies? Now this is a very direct question. That means you should talk about the direct subsidies that are provided to farm sector. That means you can talk about the MSPs, fertilizer subsidies, etc. So MSPs के बारे में, fertilizer subsidy, you can talk about irrigation subsidies, you can talk about credit. Anything, this is a direct question. Fine. Now when we go with the indirect subsidies, what is happening now? Indirect subsidies mein, what are the indirect subsidies? Now you are provided with water subsidy, you are provided with electricity subsidies, then you have these transport facilities, everything. So you can talk about all this in the first part of the question. The second part of the question is talking about discuss the issues that are being raised by WTO in relation to agriculture subsidies. That means WTO is raising certain issues, and what are those issues with respect to the direct, in respect to the agricultural subsidies. So now what WTO has talked about is they have talked about the food security thing. For example, they said that some countries including India has talked about reduction with respect to what, subsidy reduction. So usse kya hoga now if we are going to reduce the subsidies, then food security will become the issue in the country. So why? Because for that matter you need to make the food affordable. Fine. So one issue is your food security issue. Then you can go for the classification issues of box classification. You must have read about that green box, amber box and blue box. So box classification is the issue. So first you can discuss about this, then you can discuss about food security. ठीक है. Since it's a 250 word answer, you can write about one thing you can write about special and differential treatments. Okay. So this is how you are going to approach this question. This question is 14th. Yeah, 14th question. You can add on anything else you want. Adoption of, this is your 15th question. Yeah. Adoption of electric vehicles is rapidly growing worldwide. You are also evident to this fact. I am also. So, yeah. Adoption of electric vehicle is rapidly growing worldwide. How do electric vehicles contribute to reducing carbon emissions, and what are the key benefits they offer compared to traditional combustion engine vehicles? So, now the question says what adoption of it rapidly, okay, how do EVs contribute to reducing carbon emissions? That means how they are reducing carbon emissions. So pehle to, now if you are using EV, that means electric vehicle, so low CO2 emission, this is common sense. So low CO2 emission and that energy efficient products. What else you can talk about is that what would be the life of the vehicle of what would be the life of the electric vehicles? So life of EVs, yeah, life of EVs. Now then you have in EVs a very special kind of technology, and what is that? That is your zero tailpipe emission. Zero tailpipe emission. Now this zero tailpipe emission is good with respect to what? With respect to reduction in emission of CO2. So yeah, this could be written in one part, that is reducing carbon emissions. Now in the next part they are saying what are the key benefits they offer compared to traditional combustion. So now here what you can do is, if I am going with the key benefits, you can say what? You can say there will be a reduced dependency on the traditional vehicles or the traditional combustion engine vehicles. Okay, so there will be more diversity in the market. So you will have EVs also there, then you will be having the traditional combustion engine vehicles also there. Then there will be lower operating cost. Why? Because the prices of the fuels have been increasing constantly. So what you can talk about is what you can talk about is first there would be check on the price, there would be check on the operating cost. Fine. Then you can talk about, or you can say there will be energy efficiency. Etc. So multiple factors could be included. For example, there will be improved air quality, then there will be innovation and technology which is going to further improve, and there will be more enhancement in the projects that would come in future. So this is going to help you out. Environmental benefits, I have just told you ki reduction in CO2 will happen. Okay. Now this one was for 15th, I guess. Yeah. Now what is the main task of India's third moon mission, which could not be achieved in its earlier mission? which could not be achieved because firstly we failed in the landing aspect. So you can say that there was more smoother landing this time. List the countries that have achieved this task. This is very straightforward question. So you can go and search about the countries. You can talk about Russia, etc. Introduce the subsystems in the spacecraft launch. And explain the role of virtual launch control center at Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, which contributed to the successful launch from Sriharikota. Now here what you can do is you can talk about the countries which I told you. Then propulsion modes, yes, this is also very straightforward question and very subjective as well, because you will search down, then you will get some of them. I am telling you, some of them are your APXS, then one of them is your LRA. Now these are the subsystems, fine. So I am answering this portion. So APXA, LRA, then you have LIBS, you have SHAPE, etc. Fine. So this this could be directly written, framed. Now let's move on to the next question. The next question is your 17th question. Comment on the National Wetland Conservation Program initiated by the Government of India, and name a few India's wetlands of international importance included in the Ramsar site. Now the question says that comment on the National Wetland Conservation Program that was initiated by the Government of India. So if this was initiated by Government of India, how this is beneficial. So this will help in what? Better identification, better documentation of the site, better policy making, better practices for research, better monitoring of the activities. Okay, all this. Now name a few wetland of international importance. So you also know about Chilika Lake, you also know about Sundarbans National Park, then Bhoj wetlands, etc. So we can talk about it. Chilika, Bhoj wetland. You can also talk about Sundarbans, yeah. Sundarbans. Fine. Then you can talk about Sambar Lake, Rajasthan. Fine. So this very direct question, no explanation required. Now this one is your 18th one. 18th question says that IPCC has predicted a global sea level rise about 1 meter by 2100. What would be its impact in India and other countries in Indian Ocean region? Now what will happen if the level will rise? You will see flooding, simple, flooding in the regions of coastal regions. Now what is going to happen with respect to that? Now more flooding, there will be more erosion and desiltation. So one thing you will find this will happen. What else will happen? Now all those people who are living in the coastal areas, so what will you see again? Just a minute. You will encounter migration. So migration happening, people will migrate, leave. This will lead to what? Infrastructure vulnerability. Your infrastructure will get vulnerable. Fine. So infrastructure vulnerability would be there. Water resources will also be affected. Why? Because now salt water will get lessened and there will be more of fresh water. Okay, so this is how you can attempt this one. This was your 18th question. Now let's move on to the 19th one. What are the internal security challenges being faced by India? Give out the role of central intelligence and investigative agencies tasked to counter such threats. Okay. So now what you need to do is, they are saying that what are the internal security challenges that are faced by India. So India is facing a lot many security challenges. For example, there's here you will write about all left-wing extremism. You will talk about ethnic tensions. You can talk about communalism, mob lynching, fake news, multiple factors, like there's no end. Cyber threats, like all through the time I will be discussing about cyber issues, etc. So you can talk about cyber threats. They say give out the role of central intelligence and investigative agencies. So what would be the role of central intelligence and investigative agencies tasked to counter such threats? So what you can do is that in order to make your machineries operate, what is required? Firstly, assimilation of data is required. So your data should be on point, then your forces should be on point. Fine. You can also talk about what coordination, because that becomes the problem, because the respective agencies sometime or other they are not willing to cooperate with each other. So cooperation and coordination of the agencies is important. So this is how you can go for this question. Now a lot more could be written with respect to this aspect. That means what you feel what else could be done. I felt these things could be done, so you can go ahead with more of the points. Now the next question says that give out the major sources of terror funding in India. That means the major sources of terror funding in India and the efforts being made to curtail these sources. In the light of this, also discuss the aim and objective of No Money for Terror conference that was held at New Delhi in November 2022. Now they are saying that you need to discuss about the major source of terror funding. So what is the major source of terror funding? So first major source, you can talk about the illegal activities. And what are those illegal activities? Here you can talk about anything like kidnapping, extortion, ransom money. You can also talk about trafficking, anything, right, everything. Then hawala transactions that are also acting as a source of terror funding for hawala transaction. Then you can also talk about what fake currencies, because that is probably why we got a demonetization, because there was fake currency. So fake currencies are there. Then you can talk about the donations that are coming towards these charitable trusts. So sometime or other they also are channelized towards terror funding, and some of the NGOs are also they not willingly, I would say, but the money is being channelized towards terror funding. So yeah, these are the major sources. Okay, now they say efforts, Now they are talking about the efforts. So efforts may you can talk about the international cooperations to hawala transactions happening. So hawala transactions could be checked over there. Illegal activities, that is extortion money and all those kidnapping, then trafficking, etc. So for that matter, international cooperation will help you there. Legal measures could be fastened more. Then you have FIU, your financial intelligence unit. So financial intelligence unit, this is going to play a big role. Then all of this one side and public awareness is very important. So need to work upon the public awareness. Then these are the ways, these are the ways in which you can you are going to curtail what? Terror funding. You can curtail the terror funding. Now the next part of the question says that you need to discuss about the aim and the objective of no money terror. So objective may what would be the objective? In order to gain international cooperation, public awareness I have talked about, so you can say development with respect to what? Policy development in order to check the terror funding. Then capacity building. Capacity building will happen how? When public will be more aware. So the citizens need to be aware. Now technology is booming, so technology and innovation could be brought on to the field. Then in the objective portion you can also talk about that this type of no money for terror conference is being held in order to aware the public that they shouldn't get into such practices. Okay. So all in all, the paper has this GS paper 3, they have covered a very wide range of topics. I have discussed I have discussed almost all the questions with you. Yes, so I don't find anything left out, and if you have any doubt, then you can just message down. Okay, thank you so much.